All right, my friends, check this out, because this is the start of another shocker du jour. It just happens at Mudfossil University, home of the shocker du jour. And today we're going to take a look at this giant. And I'm going to tell you right up front, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to show you all the evidence that would point to it being a giant. And the anatomy is very, very difficult to dismiss once you really understand anatomy and the chemistry and the biology of creatures and how they decompose. How does it happen? What changes as they decompose under the conditions of the Great Flood? And that's when I believe these things all happen. I mean, that was not that long ago. I'm just showing you evidence. You make up your own mind. All right, I am not making any claims, and I got to be honest with you, I don't know where this is. Somebody sent this to me, got to be 10 years ago, when I first started saying there was giants in the earth and all that stuff was true and and this showed up one day. Now, I'm going to show you why I think this could very well be authentic. Now, you see the two eyes, you know, and you look at it and you say, oh, wow, that looks like a giant. Well, what exactly looks like the giant? Is there any anatomical features other than the two eyes and the nose holes and the mouth lips and the chest and the shoulder and possibly the arm? And what about this? What's hanging over here? I'm going to tell you what that is. That's a ponderosis tendon, which is on your skull, and it's thick and heavy and rubbery. It's different than the rest of the skin on your face and all that. Totally different. This, I believe, somebody either tried to break into the heart or it just leaked out. If this is true. Now, think of it this way. Here's the guy's head. I expect this is exactly what I would expect to see. Some very green stuff, because there's going to be a lot of blood up here. And it's growing green up there for why? Why is it growing green over here? This is where your blood is going to pool, right in your neck area. Now, you see this? If you could follow this down, this appears to me to come out like this, like ribs, up to this layer here, which would be the chest. And then the guy's arm would be up here and hanging over this way. And I don't know whether it broke off or it's hanging down that way. That appears to me, it has some kind of a look to it, to be like a shoulderish area. I've seen before, and they have that look to them. And like I say, this, I'm going to show you a ponderosis tendon in a head. As I always say, the human body is just so complex, it's just beyond belief. And then I'm going to show you something else about Yellowstone and the trachea at Yellowstone. Where do you see this? Hold on. I got to switch around the camera. But before I do that, don't forget, I think the heart, somebody was either realized that they wanted to get into the heart, where, I don't know for what reason, but it appears to have all of the things that I would look for to say that something was real. I mean, there's bloodiest looking stuff, and I see these two little dots in there right at the bottom. I'm not exactly sure what to think about that. We're going to think about it. If I could get up here and look into these things, it would be a whole different story. But this red color is the color of blood. And of course, you have plenty of blood up and behind your eyeballs, and it's in there. And this is in little lips looking, reddish looking blood. And it's the best I can do. It's the only shot I got. I don't know where it came from. I have no idea. Somebody maybe can tip me off. But you see all these little red areas? And there would be blood running right out of here, just like we're seeing. And there'd be a lot of blood in the neck area. There's always a lot of blood. So that's what I see when I look at this, and a little smidge of a detail, because this is the best I can do. I can just point out what I see. But on the human body, the heart is right here. That looks like a cave going into that heart, and this looks like another one coming out the other side, or just drained out by itself. But there's plenty of green in here. And that's, well, this green going to run off all the flesh, but it's better running out from where heart, red blood. It gets pretty green down here. All right, there's two things I want you to see. This is it's your forehead and your scalp and all that is like tendonish. It's very heavy, strappy, thick. It's not like your soft skin and your facial skin and all that. And I want you to look at this too. This is right coming straight up your backbone, right up your neck, and these two things go to the side and carry a ton of blood. You got a lot of blood coming up through here. And then this I found exceptionally interesting because this leads down to the two lungs. You have your lung here and you have your lung here. Of course, you have your heart and liver and so forth right in that area too. So remember that. All right, what I want you to look at, we're going to be looking at this. This is a very detailed structure of what's inside. And I believe I can see the two nerves that are coming out of that eye. Now, you got to look real careful. You see the two white ones up there? Right here? He's laying on his side this way. And I'm seeing these two little holes there. And I believe that's where the nerve enters. There is one more to look at too. This right here. Because where you see these things going in, they go through a bone. They call it foramen, I believe, the bone foramen, and they're just little holes, foramen, however you pronounce it, and they're little holes the nerves go through, and they pass from bone to bone and so forth, and inside go through the bones. Wow, the more I look, the more I see. You see that? There's another hole right there. There's a hole right here. These two go into the socket. You got the eyeball there. And we got all the same things in that giant laying there. It looks to me like they're all there. All right, this is the full shot. There's a town down here, or a house or something. Now you see the pretty good green going on down here. And the green is surrounding this. Nobody came up there and put fertilizer on there, and there's all green growing up on here, and that is exactly what you expect to see where there's blood. Now, what else do we see? I'm looking at eyeballs, I'm looking at nose, I'm looking at nerve areas that nerves go through the bone. I'll show you that. I'm looking at, I can even see the ribs. I can see the shoulder. I can see a lot of things where the heart was. I can see, and then I'm going to show you all these things as we get closer and closer into this. I believe I have or will show you for sure the anatomical shots, and I'll probably show you, well, let's get started. Okay, my friends, we're going to get into some serious details about what we can see in that head, and can we verify any of it? But before we look at the extreme details, I just want you to see this over here. You see that white strappy stuff on the skull? Right up the top there. And then it goes into the banding of the muscle in front of that. That's some heavy duty stuff up there. That's not like your normal floppy skin on your face, your cheeks, and your neck, and your, even the thinness all around your body, the adipose tissue, the outside layer of tissue. It's more floppy. This is structural, basically. That stuff is you just move it around on your own head, you're going to feel it. It's tight. It's tough and it's tight. And when this creature died, the giant I'm going to show you, or have shown you, part of that structural stuff drifted down. And I can show that on a lung, because I have a lung that has a similar type of wrapping on it, but it's more fabricy. This is more strappy. It's more structural strappy, goes only this way and that way, basically. The lung, the pleura can go all over the place, but it's very tough too, and it's thick. Okay, my friends, you all know my claim is there is virtually nothing but biology. Ovid wrote the stories about it, Apollodorus, Hesiod, all of them. Now, this is a giant, and I don't know where it is. I think I've already mentioned that before, but I believe this is literally a giant. And I am going to show you why I say this. First of all, it has the look of a giant, the two eyes, the nose, lying on its side like this. Now let's twist him up so that he's standing up. You see that? There's his eyes, there's his mouth, his nose, and there's a bunch of little holes around here. And you say, well, what's that about? Doesn't mean much. I say these are the ribs. They're right in the exact spot they're supposed to be. And I say this is his heart. This whole area right here would have been where his heart was. And I think they chiseled into here and here to get into the heart for whatever purpose. I don't know. Now, we're going to get really deep in and close. But you see these? I believe these are the ribs. Whenever you see this red color, that's where there was some arterial blood. And wherever there's arterial blood, you're going to get a lot of nice green growth. And this is very green up here because there's a ton of blood up there, as I will show you in the anatomical version. All right. It's almost undeniable as far as I'm concerned. What we're going to be looking at is what they call bone foramen, which is the holes in the bones where the nerves attach to the eye up here, these two little spots. That hole, this hole, and of course the very, very red bloody area behind the eyeball. And then we're going to look at the scalp. Did the scalp move? Which it did. And this is what when you say scalp, there's a real tough, fibrous thing on your head, right all the way down to your forehead. And when these things release, let's call it that, they can sag. Now I have a lung here that's coated with heavy pleura. It's almost the same as this sort of stuff. And in the Great Flood, you see how it's flat on that side? It died like this, and that lung, the pleura, came down here. Now, in a lung, it's a fabric bag, so it twists and does all the things. This is strappy, a little bit different, but very much the same. Very thick, very dense, very tough, because the lung has to do this all day long for your whole life. And that's very, very dense and thick. It's called pleura on a lung. Normally, this is a lung right here, too. This has been DNA tested and CAT scanned and everything else. And I got the blood out of there, drill a hole in there, got the blood out of it. This is where the heart sits right behind it, right there. All right, that's in your chest, right above, which I show you in the giant. It looks to me like his heart is right there. So this is the kind of pleura that has moved to the side. Now, this was in the Great Flood too. This giant died in the Great Flood as far as I'm concerned. Now, this is the pleura that I'm talking about right here. You see this? That's just almost like pleura. Like it's a heavy fabric, so it drifted down here off of its anchoring. All right, that's my take on this. Tons of blood right here. Wait, I'll show you that again. Now, right here is where the heart should be, and I believe that's exactly where it is. And there's two holes here, one here and one here, it looks like to me. And somebody, I believe, went into that heart, because that heart will be an open chamber. The blood runs right out. Now, this is really, really, I can't see any possibility it's wrong. This whole area here is where the eye anchors, and it's muscle area. This is the nose. Now look at this hole right here. What's that hole doing there? What are these two little holes doing there? What's that hole doing there? Looks like lips. You see that? This, I believe, is his heart. Right behind the lungs, the ribs, obviously, but right in that area. And somebody caved into here and there too. Ton of blood here, lips. These two holes, remember those. That hole in the back of the eyeball right there. That's where the optic nerve goes. that little hole right there is for nerves. There's a hole right down here where the nerves run into. Let's look at that on the anatomical. You see this? He's laying on his side. There's that hole right under his eyeball. There's the two holes right next to his eyeball towards the nose. There's one up above his eyeball. These are through the bones, and you can see them. So we got that one, we got these two, we got that one coming up. We got one down here on the chin. We've got the scalp has rolled over a little bit. And here's those holes I just showed you right there. There's the two holes in the eyeball for the nerves. There's one of the holes for the nerves. There's the nose. That's an eyeball with, you know, it's missing, but the place where the nerve would have gone through the back, the optic nerve. Now I believe this is that scalp stuff sort of moved over a little bit. It's come away from the eyebrow, like this would have been the eyebrow laying back on here. Just like this thing here has sort of folded back a little bit. I believe that is. Okay, pay attention to that spot wrapped right around the eye, because I think I see that as well. You see what you see, I see what I see. We'll see if it makes sense. Okay, my friends, this just gets better and better. I'm going to call this the coup d'etat. This is the nail in the coffin. She's done. After I show you what I have to show you, if you can find any reason not to think that this is real, I would like to know. Other than the fact that it's just absolutely enormous, yes. Just the fact of what we got. Okay, my friends, all I can tell you is this is just over the top crazy. Ovid said they turned him into the natural landscape, and they did it just for fun or whatever. And then, of course, there was the Great Flood. Now, was this guy turned into the natural landscape by some god, or was this a natural flood thing? I think this was the flood, and I'll tell you why. Because there's characteristics I see that would relate to the flood, changes in the chemistry and so forth. But what I'm going to show you now, if you can dismiss this, I would like to know your reasoning, okay? I think that's a fair statement. If you can dismiss this, I would like to know your reasoning, not just that I'm crazy. Okay, my friends, let's just do this clinically. What are we looking at? Let's take the long shot. And I say that is a giant. And I'm going to point out everything that I can point out that tells me this is a factual creature's body. Now, the first thing I look at is the amount of green that's running off, which indicates red blood. Primarily, it's the red blood makes the green. And it's pretty green. And it's very green here, exactly where I expected. And then I'm going to look at his eyeballs, if they are. So we're going to get a little closer on this now. Let's take another shot at it. Okay, so now we're right up on top of him. Let's just take it slow. Very easy now. Simple, slow. This obviously would be his head, and that I would say would be his lips, tongue, or whatever is in there. This is the nose holes, and these are the eyeballs. All right, let's just start with that. Of course, there's his chin and so forth. Then there's another thing that I see here. This spot right here. Almost like a breast. But I believe behind that is the heart. That's where it is on a human being, the left, right above the lung, where the lung sort of sits on the front of it here. And the lung would be down here. All right, now, let's get a little closer look at this and the biology that points to the things that you miss them if you don't pay real close attention. I mean real close. And you have to have the ability to understand, which means you need a real good source book, which is what I have. All right, this is the main one we're going to be referring to in a minute, but this gives you, very, very detailed into the bone structure and what they call the foramen, which are the holes. Now, this gives you something to understand how the structure of the body is put together, all of the ribs and so forth, and it's just, when you get deep into the human body, it's just stunning, absolutely stunning. Different types of tendons, of aponeurosis tendon, and the abrupt transitions all over the place. All the things I point out. All right, now let's see, that gives us another anatomical look. And here is the skull features. And the reason I got this one here is so you can see the tendinous material that makes up the scalp, and it's very structural compared to the soft tissues around your face and your neck and all that stuff. They're much different texture. As you would just do it on your own head, you can feel it. It's a thick, heavy-duty scalp. Now this one's going to come into play too. Remember this. Remember this. And remember these heavy-duty, strappy structures coming down. And then we're going to look down to, it has eroded significantly. In other words, you see this layer here? I think most of that's gone. And we're down to this layer below. All right, this is a shocker du jour. As I started going through the extreme details, there's no way in the world I can dismiss this, none whatsoever. I'm almost 100% certain this is a giant's body. Again, eyeball, nose, mouth. This is the skull, the texture moved over. I think I've shown this on a lung I have here. This is a ton of blood I'm going to show you in the anatomical, why there'd be so much blood here. The heart, I believe, is here, and I believe they were carving into that. That's the shoulder right there. I believe that broke off, and maybe part of it's laying down here, or whatever happened, I don't know. And I believe this is the lungs and the rib cage. Again, there's quite a bit of an erosion here. It would have a lot more flesh on there. We're down to the basement layer, like I showed you a minute ago. You have to understand how many depths of tissue there is, and there's more than this. But this is what you want to look at here. And don't forget, we're underneath the fleshy layer up here. All right, so we're down under. Now, here's the key. Let's get to the big shot here. Where was that? All right, so here we go into the eyeball. Let's take a look at the eyeball, both of them. You see these two holes? You see in that hole right there in the eyeball? I might have gone over this already. I had to go out and I came back, but anyway, those two things there, you got entrance to the heart, and again on both sides they're caves. This looks like it's going to be easy to get to, and I believe this is where the blood ran out of, creating the real green stuff down here. Now, the shoulder again, right up here. That's how it is. You got your muscle and your tendon, all that wrapping around, and then you got your shoulder. Now, is it right here? I don't know. But these, I believe, are his ribs, and I can show you that in pretty good detail. Watch. I'm going to rotate it. Whoops. Hold on one second. All right, this is if he was standing up. The eyeball, the two holes, there's a hole right there. There's his nose. There's an eyeball. It looks like an eyeball pushed in there. It's just that that little hole in the back is where it goes in. Now, don't forget these two holes in the front. This, there it is right there. These are the two holes. He's laying sideways down this way. Those two holes are right next to his eyeball. Remember the one right here? There's one right here. There's one right up here. Let's see if we can find any of that stuff. It's a little distorted, but there's a hole right there. There's his nose twisted. There's the two holes in his eyeball, and the red fleshy stuff is behind his eyeball. And there's that round, muscular looking thing that goes around your face. Up here it's growing grass, all kinds of plant stuff. Now, follow this carefully here. These are ribs. And this, I believe, somebody went into his heart. It's cave in a cave. And these, I believe, are the ribs. I had a better shot of this, I think, where I could really see them quite obvious, although they are pretty obvious here to me. Going right up to his head. Now, coming out of here, you got a lot of blood. And of course, the heart is exactly where it should be, is right here. And the shoulder is over here. And this could be his arm coming down right here. It's just the top of his shoulder's broken off. I don't know. It's hard to say. That would be him standing up. And these are the ribs. And I counted, like, you can see them. One here, one here, one here. This, pretty good significant. You got 13 ribs or whatever it is. And that's basically what's there. Now, don't forget, you got depth, a lot of depth on your tissues. People don't understand that. Every one of these is basically a layer from muscle down to tendon, down to bone. So you got to be able to look for the details. Now, remember that big thing around his eyeball I showed you? There it is right here. That's it. And the holes, there's the two holes, and there's the one below, there's one above, there's one in the chin. And the one, I always wondered about the hole that's in the Mitchell Hedges' skull, and that's what causes it, is the nerve. It's called the mental nerve. Oh, yeah, plus this, look at this. This is where all the blood is gushing from. That's why there's so much blood growing in that pocket just below the chin. You see here? Right there. That's where all the blood is puddling out of there. Nobody could convince me now that this is not real. And somebody could easily go up there and verify these things, I would think, to some degree. It doesn't look like it's hard to get to. Somebody's living here, or there's something's here. And I don't know where this is. Again, somebody just sent it to me. These things get sent to me. I have no idea where they came from. But there he is right there. There's the ribs. Ribs, 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 ribs. There's his eyeball, his little mouth. So I'm going with real. I would say, pretty much without doubt, that was a giant that died there or was put there by the gods. As Ovid said, they just did it sometimes just for fun. And I believe this is a heart chamber inside there. I wonder what it is. I'd like to know what was in there. And again, if somebody knows where this is from, I'd like to know, because I do not know. All right? All right, I think I made my point. You can see the ribs. You can actually see the ribs. And I believe his shoulder is broken off and his arm is sticking down there. I've shown every little detail, all the way down to the bone foramen and the little nerve holes that are going into his eye socket, and I know everything. I don't say, where all the blood is pooled in his neck. I see nothing to discount this whatsoever. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you. Have a sterling day.